Life on the mean streets with a frontline troop shot, the kind of food that the fiends eat. Man, I got straps all 8 magazines deep. All a shot like a goalkeeper with a clean sheet. My team's the meanest. I swear this year it's a clean sweep. Big groupies on my penis. You never seen this level of ability. I mean this, you never ever been a G. I'm a genius, the way I switch up the flow so seamless. Spitfire when you're homo.
Timothy Bradley is underrated. Now, let me just explain what I mean when I use the word underrated, because a lot of people seem to get confused by terms like underrated, overrated, etc. Now, when I say that Tim Bradley is underrated, I am not saying that he is a flawless fighter. I'm not saying that he's even top 5 pound for pound necessarily. I'm not even saying that he's the best fighter in his division. All I'm saying is that Tim Bradley is better than the majority of the boxing public give him credit for. That's all I'm saying. There's a lot of underrated fighters in boxing. There's a lot of fighters out there who get a hell of a lot of criticism, and they may not be the greatest fighters around, but they're better than the majority of the general public give them credit for. And Tim Bradley is one of those fighters, and I'm gonna prove so irrefutably in this video right here. Now, there is a lot of people who know how good Tim Bradley is, and they realize that he's better than the general public give him credit for. But there's a lot of people out there who really don't think much of Tim Bradley. And I guess they just think he's got to the point where he's at, I don't know, by accident. The most ridiculous statement or comment that I've heard online about Tim Bradley, and I've heard this from quite a few people on YouTube, different places on the internet, Facebook, different forums. I've heard this from quite a few people about Tim Bradley. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard about this guy. Right? Most ridiculous comment I've ever heard about Tim Bradley. And the comment is that Tim Bradley is just some crude brawler who wins his fights on toughness and heart. That is the most ridiculous comment I've ever heard about Tim Bradley, right? And I'm gonna show you why that comment is so ridiculous. Right, first and foremost, let's look at Tim Bradley's record. All right, I'm on BoxRec right now, right? Tim Bradley, and I've followed Tim Bradley's career for years, you understand? So I've seen a lot of his fights, most of his fights. Now, Tim Bradley, his record is currently 29 wins, no losses, 12 KOs, right? That's Tim Bradley's record. And if you look through his record in recent years, right, let's see his first really significant fight, which was, well, he fought Miguel Vasquez back in 2007. Miguel Vasquez is a little guy, right? Even though he's taller than Tim Bradley, you know, he is a little guy in terms of, you know, physical, you know, his frame and everything like that. But he beat Miguel Vasquez anyway, a unanimous decision over 10 rounds. Next fight, he fought Junior Witter in the UK. All right, Junior Witter was the WBC light welterweight champion at the time. Junior Witter is a very tricky, elusive, slippery, unorthodox, and difficult fighter to face. Tim Bradley, people, was the first man to beat Junior Witter since Zab Judah beat a very green Junior Witter back in the day. Tim Bradley went to Junior Witter's hometown, or at least home country, right, in the UK, and beat Junior Witter in his own backyard. All right? And he did not beat Junior Witter by brawling. He outsmarted Junior Witter in there. Go watch the fight. I'm not lying. He outsmarted Junior Witter in there. And Witter is a very difficult fighter to outsmart, especially back then. He outsmarted him. He didn't beat him with brawn, right? Rushing in and pressure tactics. No, he beat him by outthinking him. So that was the first major fight that Tim Bradley had, and I was very impressed with the way that he handled Junior Witter. From the Witter fight, when I saw him fight Junior Witter, I was like, wow, Tim Bradley is one of the smartest fighters I've seen for a long time, because he was outsmarting Junior Witter in there. Next fight was Kendall Holt. Now, against Kendall Holt, the next significant fight, was Kendall Holt. Now, when he fought Kendall Holt was a hell of a lot better back then than he is now. He fought Kendall Holt back in 2009. Back in 2009, right? Tim Bradley fought that fight differently than he fought the Junior Witter fight. He used pressure tactics on Kendall Holt for the most part. He pressured him. Now, imagine this. Tim Bradley got dropped by a Kendall Holt left hook in the first round. Tremendous shot. He got back up off the canvas and managed to win, and managed not to get hit with the same punch, with that same kind of, clean punch for the rest of the fight, and won a 12-round unanimous decision. A guy that is a crude brawler, how was he able, right? A guy who's supposedly a crude brawler, how was he able to make an adjustment in that fight and not get hit with that same type of punch again in 12 rounds? How was he able to do that? All right. Next significant fight, 2009, he took on the then undefeated Lamont Peterson. A very strong, rugged fighter himself, Lamont Peterson. Now, this is the same Lamont Peterson who put Amir Khan on his bicycle for the whole 12 rounds. Had him up against the ropes, beating him up and down the body, marking up his face. Yeah, that Lamont Peterson. The Lamont Peterson who was, throwing home run right hands, landing, connecting clean and flush on Victor Ortiz in the second half of their fight. Yeah, that Lamont Peterson. All right? He fought Lamont Peterson in 2009, and he, again, outboxed Lamont Peterson. There was spots in that fight which did get a bit rough, but for the most part, that fight was Tim Bradley on the move, counterpunching Lamont Peterson to death. Right? He did fight on the inside in spots, but for the most part, he was moving, jabbing, waiting for Peterson to get up close, and then he was landing counters. And he managed to drop Lamont Peterson. This is a guy in Tim Bradley who's a small guy. He's 5'6". He's short. But yet he managed to outbox Peterson much more effectively than Amir Khan, who's supposedly a good boxer. And you can't tell me that Khan decided not to box against Peterson, because Khan was running around the ring, right, like he was running track for most of the fight. Khan was trying his best to box, but he just couldn't hit Peterson with anything to get his respect. Well, Tim Bradley did. And when Lamont Peterson got on the inside against Bradley, Bradley knew what to do, because he's a skilled fighter on the inside. Next fight up is this fight you're watching right now in the background, when he fought Luis Abreu in 2010. Another undefeated fighter. Right? He just beat Lamont Peterson by a 12-round unanimous decision. He fought Luis Abreu. Abreu is 5'10", people. A 72-inch reach. He had the height advantage. He had the reach advantage. He had the overall size advantage over Timothy Bradley. This was a fight fought at welterweight. All right? Tim Bradley didn't go in there and pressure Luis Abreu, folks. He didn't go in there and start swinging wildly with no, sense of what he was doing and just win on toughness. No. Only a blind man would think that he did that in that fight. No, Tim Bradley outboxed Luis Abreu. It's plain to see. He outboxed him. He outmaneuvered him. He countered Luis Abreu to death. His jab was effective. His counters were sharp, crisp, and accurate. Right? And he outboxed Luis Abreu, another undefeated fighter, to a 12-round unanimous decision. Used his legs, used movement, used feints, used his jab, and outboxed him. Next fight, he fought yet another undefeated fighter, Devon Alexander. In this fight, Timothy Bradley decided to use pressure. Have you noticed the pattern here? Tim Bradley don't fight the same against every opponent. Right? Tim Bradley's a versatile fighter. He caters his tactics to specific opponents. And he obviously saw something in watching Devon Alexander that he would be susceptible to pressure. So he went in there with a Devon Alexander fight and he pressured Alexander from the opening bell. Now, Devon Alexander was a guy who just recently beat the living crap out of Marcus Maidana. Now, isn't Marcus Maidana supposed to be this beast who's a tremendous puncher? Isn't he supposed to be a crude slugger with a tremendous punch? That's who Marcus Maidana is supposed to be. All right? Devon Alexander handled Maidana easy, beat the living crap out of him. I don't think he even lost a round. Maidana's much bigger than Bradley, hits much harder than Bradley. So how was it, if Tim Bradley's just this crude slugger, how was it that he was able to be much more effective against Devon Alexander than Marcus Maidana was? How can it be? He's smaller than Maidana. He don't hit as hard as Maidana. If they're both just crude sluggers, why is it that Bradley has success where Maidana didn't? I'll tell you why. Because Tim Bradley is a hell of a lot better than a crude slugger. Tim Bradley is one of the smartest fighters in boxing. He knows when this is one of the funny things, is that, a few of the people who claim that Tim Bradley don't really have any boxing skills or don't have great boxing skills, a few of these people are the same people who said that Victor Ortiz has good boxing skills. If you think that Victor Ortiz has good boxing skills and Tim Bradley don't, man, I don't know what kind of shit you're smoking. All right? Because Victor Ortiz, in terms of world level boxing, Victor Ortiz is one of the dumbest fighters around. And you're trying to tell me this guy's got better boxing skills than Tim Bradley? Who the hell did Victor Ortiz ever outbox that was decent? Right? Look at the Peterson fight. Who did a better job of outboxing Peterson? Victor Ortiz or Tim Bradley? Tim Bradley hands down. All right? He wasn't getting hit with clean shots from Lamont Peterson, but Victor Ortiz was. All right, so back to the Devon Alexander fight. Even though Alexander had the speed advantage in that fight, Tim Bradley was able to negate the extra speed by knowing where to be in the ring. Tim Bradley is smart. He knows what position to be in. If you go and watch the Alexander fight, Tim Bradley knows what position to be in before he lets his hands go. He knows when he's in a safe position where he can throw a punch and won't get countered. This is the art of boxing, hitting and not getting hit. Again, a lot of the same people who are criticizing Bradley now are the same people who, back when the Super 6 tournament first started, were trying to tell me that Andre Ward was nothing but pretty much a John Ruiz type of fighter, just a spoiler. They didn't see the skill that he has, right? And it's only after the Carl Froch fight they were like, oh, okay, yeah, I see the skill now. Listen what I'm telling you right now. Tim Bradley's very similar to Andre Ward. He's not quite as talented. Don't get it confused. He's not quite as talented as Andre Ward, but he's a very similar kind of fighter in that, just like Andre Ward, he's not a massive puncher, but he's a good all-rounder. And just like Andre Ward, he's very smart. He's very tactically aware, and he knows what he's doing in the ring. This is Tim Bradley. This is the reality of Tim Bradley. He's a very smart fighter. And he even though he did muscle and, roughhouse Alexander on the inside, it was his brain that won that fight. Because like I said, look what Maidana did against Alexander. He couldn't do nothing with Alexander. He got the crap beat out of him for 10 rounds. But Bradley didn't. Bradley's a hell of a lot smarter than Maidana. That's why. You understand what I'm telling you? Right? Then he fought, his next most significant fight was obviously the Pacquiao fight. Now, like most people, I thought Pacquiao won against Tim Bradley. I thought he won comfortably. But whether or not you thought that Tim Bradley won or lost the Pacquiao fight, there's certain facts about the fight with Pacquiao that's irrefutable. A lot of people, Tim Bradley naysayers, were saying that expected Tim Bradley to get stopped in the Pacquiao fight. Most of them did. Most of them expected him to look busted up, beaten up, and get stopped. And they were trying to save face after the fight, saying, oh, the fight went how I expected. No, it didn't. You expected Bradley to get stopped. You expected Bradley to get beat up. So many people were saying this. So many people, like at least half of the boxing community was saying this, that Bradley's going to get stopped, blah, blah, blah. He's gonna get beat up, but he didn't. All right, for this crude brawler like Tim Bradley, how come this supposed crude brawler was able to go pretty much toe-to-toe with Manny Pacquiao for 12 rounds and come out without a scratch? How's that possible? Look at Manny Pacquiao against another, basic brawler type pressure fighter, Antonio Margarito. Look at Margarito's face. Right? Look at Margarito's face. Did Tim Bradley's face end up like that? No. Tim Bradley came out of the Pacquiao fight without a scratch on him. It's not an accident, people. Tim Bradley demonstrated terrific head movement in the Pacquiao fight. He was standing right in front of Pacquiao. When Pacquiao started letting his hands go, Bradley was using upper body movement to get away from the punches. And at one point, he started ducking below Pacquiao's left hand. Tim Bradley proved in that fight that he has very underrated defense. Another thing in that fight that happened is Tim Bradley did injure both his ankles. It's clear to see in the fight when it happens. He steps on his ankle and twists it. You can see it all clearly. He goes to his corner after that round and says, my ankle's busted. It's all clear to see. It's not no conspiracy. It's not an excuse. You hear him saying it during the fight. All right? He had 2 injured ankles. He was standing in front of Manny Pacquiao and he still managed to do 12 rounds without getting busted up. How is that possible if he's just a crude brawler? Because he's not just a crude brawler, people. Tim Bradley is a very smart boxer. He's very versatile. He can brawl when he has to, get rough on the inside when he has to. He can stick a jab and move when he has to. He can counter punch when he has to. He's a very good all-round fighter. And that's what people are not realizing. And he's very underrated defensively. Very smart. Very, very smart fighter. Now, if you, in regards to his defense, look at Pacquiao's other opponents, right? Marquez is someone who people say is this supreme boxer, which he is a very good boxer and a very good counter puncher. And he does certain things better than Tim Bradley, right? And he certainly is able to hit Manny Pacquiao cleaner than Tim Bradley. But even with Marquez, the first time he fought Pacquiao, that fight was the closest. But every subsequent fight, Marquez did pretty much better and better. All right? But, and granted, Pacquiao was definitely better when he fought Marquez the first couple times than he was when he fought Tim Bradley. No question about it. Right? I'm not disputing that. But I've always felt that, and I said this at the time, that in a rematch, Tim Bradley would do even better. Not just because he wouldn't have the injured ankles, but I feel like he'd do better in a rematch with Pacquiao because he knows what Pacquiao's like now. He knows his rhythm. He knows his movements. He'd be able to time him better. He'd be able to see things better because he's used to Pacquiao. The same way that Marquez got progressively better each time he fought Pacquiao. All right? Now, even someone like Marquez, who people see as a master technician, even he got hit a hell of a lot more against Manny Pacquiao than Tim Bradley ever did. Bradley came out the fight without a scratch on him. But yet Pacquiao's next fight was against Marquez again. Look at Marquez's face. Right? He was getting lit up. Right? Even the fight before that, even the third Marquez fight, where, you know, Pacquiao didn't look good, because people say that Pacquiao looked better in the fourth Marquez fight, and I agree. But look at the third Marquez fight even. Marquez came out the fight with facial damage. He was getting touched in there by Pacquiao shots. He was getting hit a lot more than Bradley was. So as much as Marquez does certain things better than Bradley, Bradley does certain things better than Marquez. You understand what I'm telling you? Tim Bradley is very underrated by a lot of people in the boxing public. Right? This guy's got a good defense. He's smart. He knows what he's doing in the ring. He's very versatile and adaptable. It's just impossible for a 5'6" fighter with no power to get to the level that he's at if he's just a crude brawler. It don't make no sense. And like I said, go watch his fights. Look at this fight that's on right now against Abreu. For the most part, he was outboxing Abreu in the fight. That's how he won it. He didn't win it with pressure. He won it with boxing ability. Now, does Tim Bradley have the best technique in the world? No, he don't. Right? He don't have the best technique in the world. Does he get wild sometimes? Yes, he does. But does that detract from his overall boxing skills? No, it don't. Not significantly. He's still a very, very good boxer. Boxing is simply the art of hitting and not getting hit. If you're able to hit your opponent and not get hit at the highest level, obviously, you know, and you're fighting good opponents like Bradley. He's fought 3 undefeated fighters in his last 5 fights. This guy's not getting hit a lot, people. All right? He's getting hit a lot less than a lot of people who some of you claim are good boxers. Victor Ortiz. And yeah, just to end this video, Tim Bradley don't get the credit he deserves. Not only is he better in terms of his skills and ability than people give him credit for, but he don't get the credit that he deserves for the work that he's put in. All right, traveling to the UK to defeat Junior Witter. Right? Outmaneuvering him, outthinking him, outsmarting him to take the WBC light welterweight title. Tim Bradley, like I said, has beaten 3 undefeated fighters in his last 5 fights. Imagine that, 3 undefeated fighters in his last 5 fights. Floyd Mayweather, the guy who a lot of people consider to be, you know, at least top 3 pound for pound. Floyd Mayweather, he hasn't fought 3 undefeated fighters in his entire career. But Tim Bradley's fought 3 undefeated fighters in his last 5 fights. This guy don't get the credit that he deserves in boxing. You understand what I'm telling you? And this idea that he's just a crude brawler, I've just completely refudiated that claim. I've completely crushed that argument. It's a ridiculous argument. All right, that's the fact. Tim Bradley's a very smart fighter, very good all-rounder, and he wouldn't be where he is today. A guy who's as small as he is, right, with as little power as he has, he wouldn't be where he is today if he was just this brawler, crude swinger, just wins on heart and toughness. Ridiculous thing to say. You know what I mean? No disrespect to anyone. I respect everyone. You understand what I'm saying? But that particular viewpoint is absurd. Yeah, that's just a fact. All right? So, I'm sure some people will want to come back at me for this. You get me? They'll probably feel hurt and shit. Whatever the case may be, argue the facts. You know what I mean? This is not a personal attack on anyone in a YouTube boxing community or on Facebook or anything like that. I'm not attacking no one. None of you subscribers. I'm cool with everyone. I'm just attacking the argument. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's all it is. So, yeah, hit me up in the comment section. I'm sure people got a lot to say about this. This is Hatman. I'm out.
Life on the mean streets with a frontline troop shot, the kind of food that the fiends eat. Man, I got straps all 8 magazines deep. All a shot like a goalkeeper with a clean sheet. My team's the meanest. I swear this year it's a clean sweep. Big groupies on my penis. You've never seen this level of ability. I mean this, you never ever been a G. I'm a genius, the way I switch up the flow so seamless. Spitfire where your homo team is. I can go solo, go platinum, then come back with 4 more beamers. Watch this bass. Any sound boy chat shit to me and I'll box his face. Just catch, don't make this a hostage case. I'm real.